Hey, it's Leigh on Acord, and this is season 3 of Old Dogs and New Tricks. Thanks for watching it with me. First of all, season 3, I can't believe it's gone this far, and I'm currently writing season 4. It's all kind of mind blowing. We just put up a pop up video of this first episode, so I'll try not to repeat too much information that I put up there. Um, I think this is probably our weakest episode of the third season. Not weak that it's bad, just in terms of momentum, because we resolved so many of the outstanding cliffhangers and storylines from season 2 in WeHo Horror Story. So much of this episode was about starting new storylines. You know, Nathan meeting Jake, Brad getting his bad news, Muscles meeting uh, Lucas and excuse me, and Ross's situation, shall we say, and Mo Gaffney, who's in this episode. So it was there. I guess it's a problem that those primetime soaps in the 80s always had. You know, the bigger and more bombastic the cliffhanger, the harder it was to come back from it. And we came out of it and found ourselves starting the third season almost with a blank slate. Mo Gaffney.
Anywho, sorry.
Jolene, before we get started,
I should release a reel of just all of her ad libs. She had so many great ad libs.
it was very special.
Nobody wants to sob. I'm insulted that he would suggest it. At one point, her line was, he wants such and such percentage of your acting income, which she says, which would be, you know, in excess of $100. Just all sorts of little throwaways she did that were just so funny.
What?
He wants the BMW, and you get
We were
I don't want the sob.
the way it was set up. This is actually a dining room, so there's a kitchen behind David where the crew was, the non-essential crew. The camera was actually in the room with them, and all of us in the kitchen, we were just doubled over. I couldn't watch it. It was just too funny. We were doubled over, covering our mouths, desperately trying to laugh, and then, you know, they'd call cut and we would howl. She's so funny. And it's funny with the big guest stars, and they're all the same in this way. Mo showed up very kind of, hi, I'm Mo Gaffney, where do I need to go? Just very unassuming and nice and pleasant and non-diva-like. It was fabulous. New landlords called. This was a clue because if you notice from season 1, Nathan is now in a new office. So we wanted to indicate that he had to downsize because he's been ignoring his work through all of his personal dramas.
Well, I got some work done. You know, I read that Lifetime script, and I think it would be perfect for.
And there it is. Which was not hot coffee. It was actually lukewarm Coke. It was very sticky. This was actually the first scene I shot. Welcome back, Nathan. And it was a little weird playing him again, dressed like that and not wearing a suit or one of his usual, you know, fabulous sweaters or whatever. But I don't know. I thought it was the ultimate meet cute. It had to be a meet cute. And this is Curtis Wayne Brown. His introduction as Jake Tyler. Here's a little backstory casting info. Originally, Ian Buchanan was going to come back to season 3, reprising his role of Kristoff, and he was going to be Nathan's love interest. Up to the point where we had the table read 2 weeks before we started shooting. Ian was also rehearsing a play at the time, Lion in Winter, and about a week after the reading, emailed us apologizing profusely, saying that, you know, with the rehearsals, he just you know, was over optimistic and just didn't think he was going to be able to do it. So we scrambled. Steve Curtis, one of our producers, lined up 3 or 4 actors. And 2 of them didn't show up, and 2 of them did, and we read with the 2 of them, and Curtis was the second. Curtis was actually a recommendation from Amanda Gary, who plays Lydia. And after Curtis left, it was sort of, we didn't even have to watch the footage or the video that we taped. It was like, well, it's him. He has, you know, we had great chemistry. There was a little concern that maybe Curtis and I were a little too alike. They were both kind of high energy. So, you know, we were, I was frequently taught, you know, before a scene with me and Curtis, I would be like, okay, Curtis, pretend you're on, you know, Law and Order Special Victims Unit or something. Just be as serious as you can. He's very full of life and very energetic.
Phil, you're holding a lot of tension. Thanks for squeezing me in so quickly.
And again, our viewers were saying, we want to see David naked more, so we obliged with the very first episode.
It's warm in here. Mind if I take my shirt off?
Stephen Navarro, the masseur, was very game. Great guy. I wasn't in the room for any of this. I'd stay out of the room during the sex stuff. This was actually shot just less than a mile away from where we shot the car accident. I think we shot it right after.
I could probably use your services.
It's a shame the scene where we shot the car accident was actually right next to a freeway on-ramp, and you can certainly hear it. We had 1 or 2 shots where you could actually see it. It's kind of a shame we didn't use any of those.
He doesn't look anything like me.
This is Dan Oliverio as Lucas, the paramedic. I had worked with Dan a couple times, actually. First in San Francisco in '99 to 2000 in a play called Dream Boy that he directed. And then he actually gave me my first job. I moved to LA, and you know, I'm like going through the casting notices and see this play directed by Dan Oliverio. And I'm like, oh my God, could it be the same guy? And he cast me in a part in that. And so when I knew I wanted to do this particular storyline, I knew Dan was literally an expert who had written about it and given speeches about it. So
consider downsizing your lifestyle.
We'll get back to that. This is as Bernie the accountant, John Steven Rothenberg, one of our executive producers on season 3, and all around good guy. I couldn't lift a cigarette without him having a lighter ready for me. This scene. I think I suggested using a empty paper towel roll, kind of pried up in his underwear. I'm told they rigged some sort of strap-on of some sort. Again, I was not in the room for this scene. I like to give actors their privacy during these moments, because they're more often than not very awkward and uncomfortable, and lots of politicking about, you know, how far can we go, how comfortable will the actors be, that kind of thing. We actually submitted this to the Hot as Hell Festival in Palm Springs, and Steve Silverman said when he got to the scene, he was like, oh no, we can't show this. Oh my God, we can't show this. No, I'm going to have to tell him no. And then he said, seeing where we cut away, he's like, oh, okay, I get it. And I told him that's what we do on Old Dogs and New Tricks. We always flirt dangerously close to the edge of bad taste and then pull back for a gag. I don't know if most people noticed the camera lens in that very last shot, the video camera recording the proceedings. But yeah, that's the sex tape that comes up later in the season. Much later. Which brings up something else we can talk about compared to the other 2 seasons. Season 3 is writing it was like a chess game. It really was. It was a lot more strategic. Well, seasons 1 and 2 I sort of wrote straight out, you know, chronologically, linear forward. In season 3 I wrote a lot of scenes and pasted and moved, and it was kind of a chess game because it was so heavily serialized.
But if I'm going to retain myself,
he's very good in this scene, and you see why he gets the part.
I gotta love myself as much. I filed for divorce.
That was very nice, right?
Sean Landry, good friend from San Francisco, improv artist. Anyway, the season was so heavily serialized that plotting it was really a chess game of like, okay, when this peaks with these characters, the other two characters have to kind of sort of move into the background, but we can't like just have them disappear. It was sort of like just moving pieces around. And it was a big challenge, but ultimately it was one of the things I enjoyed most about the writing of this season was kind of plotting out the serialization without having it be...
Twist my arm.
And also, and this is, I think, most web series probably deal with this, trying to figure out what things you needed to show and what things you could say, oh, this happened. For us, it's a constant challenge.
Hey.
I love Amanda Gary as Lydia. She is perfect.
Oh, and don't worry.
I don't think she's ever gotten a single direction.
Okay.
She just knows.
Bye.
Well, all these actors, they just know these characters, but I love working with Amanda. Again, I think we have great chemistry, and she's just...
Oh, to hell with it. It was probably just a figment of my imagination anyway.
Oh no, honey. I saw him. He was all
She is Lydia so much that I don't think she's as subservient as Lydia is, but other than that...
Nelson Van Eddy.
Nelson returns for a new season of Mayhem. This time he brings along his assistant, his backup,
Oh, thank you.
Rutanya Alda,
Would you like some coffee?
as Barbara
He would be
Fierce.
Fabulous.
I have to confess something, actually. We shot all these office scenes, all the office scenes throughout the season we shot in one day. And this was the last scene that day that we shot.
Wait a minute. How do you even...
And I'm very good at memorization. But at one point, John Cleland decided that we had to flip 2 lines. I think, sit down, would you like coffee? Would you like some coffee? Sit down. And my mind just went blank. I could not remember a line after that. So I quickly ripped the pages out of my script, spread them all out over Nathan's... she cracks me up. Spread the pages all over Nathan's desk. I was a little embarrassed at first to be doing this in front of a guest star of Rutanya's stature. But she had witnessed everything else we'd shot that day, so I think she kind of knew. And, she's worked with the best.
Why would I?
And God knows what she's seen actors do. And
respect, Nelson, you are...
oddly enough, once they were spread out, I really didn't have to look at them. It was just I needed that security. Actors.
Please, Barbara.
Bruce is wonderful.
Everything that you thought that Damien would do to you.
We were running really late, and this was like the last setup we shot. And at first they were like, okay, that's a wrap for the scene. And we're like, no, we have to get this in close-up. And they're like, okay, we got to do it really quick. And to Bruce's credit, because a scene like this, most actors would ask for at least a little time. But no, it was like, okay, we moved in, ready, go, action, breakdown, cry. And he did it.
I'm not smiling.
Bruce is another one who really knows the
Listen,
character.
Nelson,
We're so lucky to have got Rutanya, and she is amazing. I mean, she lives in New York. How did we get her? She actually was in a show in San Francisco. It was a program in the Castro Theater in the Castro. Mother's Day with Mommy Dearest, and they brought her out to honor her and show the film. And my friend Matthew Martin performed in it, who performs in all of those productions. And said she was just great. And I saw some clips from the production, which was produced by Mark Eustace. And she just had such a great sense of humor that I sent her an email and asked her if she'd like to do the show. At that time, I didn't realize she lived in New York. So there's no discussion about bringing her out. She said yes, she'd love to do the show. Turns out she said she'd bring herself out, she'd put herself up. She's bringing her son, Jeremy Bryden. Oh, do you think there's a part for him? And I said, hey, I'll write one, which I did, and it was great. We're very lucky to get her.
Can't stop thinking about him. I flirted, I flattered, I just can't.
You know, there are a lot of scenes in season 3 of Brad and Muscles.
What do you mean not interested?
And
What works when guys hit on you?
I think
Good manners.
partly because Ross was so busy with the movie storyline.
That's him.
And then having to go sort of underground after the sex tape. But I really kind of enjoyed really all of their scenes together because it's like the two opposing ends of the spectrum when it comes to the 4 guys.
I'm Brad.
They're the most diverse of the 2.
Of course. Hi, Lucas.
And I think they make a great team. They work really well together. They have good chemistry, which is true of, you know, you team up any 2 of our actors, and
Like birds of a fucking feather.
we're just so lucky. We're really lucky that way.
Hey,
You want to grab a bite to eat sometime?
Isn't that what we're doing now?
See, this is a case of good actors making a lame joke work.
Super.
Because I was never happy with that. Isn't that what we're doing? But they made it work. That was a house we shot in Beverly Hills and just inserted. That was tricky. Just driving around Beverly Hills and trying to subvertly get pictures of houses.
shit.
So I wonder if the person who lives there knows that their house is now forever immortalized in our web series.
I'm in my screening room downstairs at the end of the hall.
This screening room actually is in the lower bowels of the house where Nathan Adler lives. Our friends Peter and Fab Brandt have this fabulous home in Sherman Oaks. It's like 4 or 5 different levels carved in the side of a hill, and includes a screening room. It also includes the endless pool that you saw Lucas swimming in the first episode. So yeah, we lucked out with them. They're fabulously gracious people. I can't believe how much they let us shoot in season 3. So yeah, this is Jake's screening room, even though it's in Nathan's house. Shh! Don't tell anybody. There's some back and forth on the editing of this scene. I wrote it and always sort of thought that we can't show what he's looking at until the very end. And there were a couple edits that came back where they hinted with dollar amounts or whatever, and we were also like, no, we really can't see that till the end. It's really only one joke. I buy instead of eBay. I created that actually, and if you notice, that ad for that movie is actually Vultures in the Void, a movie that Arvind Batista directed.
Seen Safety Last since college. I forgot it was so funny.
I love that film.
This scene.
Different from the others.
So anyway, going back to Mr. Curtis Wayne Brown and him coming on board.
I have it.
Um,
I can't stand this.
Once Ian told us he wasn't going to be able to shoot, we quickly went into the script and didn't really restructure it. We just replaced all the scenes with Christoph with Jake and created
investments.
mostly a new character with Jake. I wouldn't say he's Christoph. We certainly did rewrite him, but he has some of Christoph's traits.
Trust fund baby.
Jake's not a photographer, though. He's a model.
So am I, although my parents weren't nearly as trusting as yours.
Nothing like that.
This was a fun scene to shoot. I think this was one of our audition scenes.
No, we can change the subject if you want.
I really wish we had had the budget to do some spectacular, like
Oh my God, that was
Calvin Klein type 80s billboard type ad.
In the 80s.
I guess we could have if we had time. It was because
Interview magazine, video.
we had to turn stories and things around so quickly.
Yeah,
Because we really only had about a week between the time we secured Curtis and started shooting, and he was in the first scene of the day, or first day of shooting. So
you better let me double check. Speaking of checks, did you get an estimate? How much do I owe you?
I have to say it was a lot of fun doing these scenes. After shooting scenes with Damien
Wow.
in the first couple seasons,
Wait a minute.
Damien
Did you
is
just say
the
something about
strong silent type, and Nathan's like totally tongue-tied around him, so the scenes weren't necessarily
that's
verbal.
what tonight was?
So to be able to play these like kind of verbal volleyball games with
There's a
Jake
second.
Curtis was a nice change of pace. Oh, here it comes. I swear to God, we do not kiss this loud. I think they amped up the volume or something. It sounds like we're like walking in mud.
Nathan, when or if we become intimate, I want it to deepen our relationship, not define it.
I will confess that is one line I held over from Christoph. That was a Christoph line that it's like, okay. Okay, we may have a new actor and a new character, but you can still say that one
Put on
line.
another movie.
What do you want to watch?
Pandora's box.
You know, it's always important to me, too. I mean, the whole show is supposed to be about the slow maturation process of these 4 Peter Pan boys. Well, Ross isn't really one of them. 3. And, so this relationship with Jake, that was something I thought was an important step for Nathan. You know, he's had a relationship that was like immediate and physical and burnt hot and blew up. The next step is a little more of an adult relationship, a little more grown up thing going on. So the challenge for Nathan is, can he grab that, or is he going to still hang on to the lingering memories of, you know,
Sounds cool.
that teenage style lust?
I'm driving.
I don't know if people get that. Nathan has had a BlackBerry till this season, so... And I know, when I first got my Droid, I had trouble keeping it. I really like how that came together. It's funny, Arvin, I directed this episode, and Arvin asked me to edit it at first, and I got about this far and said, Arvin, I can't do it. But he really, I think he made those flashbacks with Damien really work.
So I set up this audition for new drummers, right? And in walks Andy, and he blew me away.
Andy Gates as Lydia's boyfriend, Andy. They have great chemistry, too. We're just so lucky. Maybe I should be a casting agent. Casting director.
In the middle of something, wasn't it, honey?
She likes the way I play with my sticks.
He's
This is one direction I made. We did a few takes of this scene with them, and then the last one I said, okay, be a couple teenagers, just go for it. And that's a take we used with them giggling and growling. And
I'm Brad King, Nathan's oldest friend.
I frequently kept forgetting while I was directing this episode that I was directing this episode, especially in scenes that I was in. I know I kept forgetting to call cut on this
Nice to
scene.
meet you, Brad. I used to dance. my ass off.
Had a lot of help. Steve Curtis was instrumental, especially with this sequence, with the staging of the 3 of us, the 5 of us, and the 2 move off, and then 2 shift over. And,
Lovely first impression.
I probably should give him co-direction credit.
You should try one now.
I've already wrecked my diet.
Diets are for girls.
Lucas, my mother would love you. Here.
God, you are so...
Jeffrey's so underrated. He's so much better than people give him credit for.
Yes, I suppose
He cracks
I was.
me up.
Max's Kansas City?
Yes.
The Ritz.
The Saint. The Limelight.
One of the things also I really wanted to do with this season was to have it play out in real time. And this episode came out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. This came out on Wednesday, and Thanksgiving was the next day, Thursday. And we sort of played out in real time, except for our Christmas Eve episode was on Christmas Eve, and our Christmas Day episode was on New Year's Eve. That was sort of a little wink back to the first season cliffhanger, actually, when Lydia walked in on Nathan and Damien.
So, Ross,
And Nathan's feeling sorry for himself.
Could you grab me the milk?
Ross,
I don't know if I played it strongly enough, but, you know.
Like Jake. He's so... Yeah, I know.
Nathan's really torn in this episode. He's you know,
well, he's certainly the biggest.
this perfect, fabulous guy out there for him, and yet
Oh, it's good to have someone at the
he
table
can't
who
stop
knows how to
thinking
handle
about
it.
this guy he'll never see again.
Nathan, I love Jake. He is so...
Yeah, I know.
Is he as romantic when you're, you know...
Fucking?
This was a very long day shooting. We shot most of this episode,
Okay. I better get back before Lucas accuses Lydia.
except for the bathroom scenes coming up later on in one night. This was pretty late at night,
Huh, Ross?
but it got even later once we got to the table.
I really like Jake. He's so...
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
For the meals for Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving, everybody.
we actually got, I think, 8 or 9 Thanksgiving turkey TV dinners and heated them up in the microwave.
Stranger, starring Ross Stein.
And after about the 6th or 7th, the microwave conked out. It was a mess.
Shooting starts on Monday.
It was about 2 in the morning by the time we shot this, and I flubbed that line many times, as you'll see if you watch our outtakes, our bloopers.
Look at you two. Such a handsome couple. Lucas, you know I don't do butter, baby.
Originally, we were going to have food just in bowls on the table, and Lucas was going to just scoop out a pile of food on Muscle's plate. But when we realized we had to economize and do the TV dinner and come out with the plates already with food on them, we had to rewrite that on the spot.
We've never been apart on Thanksgiving.
Parnell again as Neil,
How do we get here?
You miss me, huh?
showing some vulnerability
December
and
30th at our hearing.
See, you think that I was fucking around on you, but I wasn't.
I love that he looked at us at the table when he said that. That was not a director's note. That's something he did. He's fabulous. They're both they got great energy together.
By the way, to pay lawyers to tear each other
I'm going to
apart.
shut up about all of our fabulous chemistry. I really will. It's getting redundant and ridiculous. Neil has this bad habit of just busting in, doesn't he? This was really the only direction I remember giving, is that, okay, I'm going to get up, and then you wait, and then you get up, and then Brad, you wait a long time, and then reluctantly. Other than that, I can't really remember actually giving. These actors know the characters so well, you really don't have to direct them. And I've had many of our directors tell me that. Now that I've directed, I get it. They're right.
When is this going to be over? He's in my life more now.
Originally scripted, Ross was going to be crying. But when we began shooting the scene, David said, no, I don't want to cry. Ross has cried enough. Now he's just angry. And again, that's the benefit of having great, thoughtful actors in these roles. Because it's much more interesting to let him play the progression instead of having him play just this guy who's sad about it all the time.
Thanksgiving is.
I need a sip of tea.
It's nuts.
I've been asked several times, those are not real joints. We took filterless Camel cigarettes and, wrinkled out the tips of them and then, scrunched up the ends so they would look like real joints.
You okay?
Don't act like you can't see it. I'm fat. 6 pounds, 7 ounces.
I will say one last time, Jeffrey is so underrated. He's so talented, and I don't, because he makes it look so easy, I don't think people give him the credit he deserves.
Is when a man eats like a real man.
Every season, I guess I can't say it's surprising when it's constantly happening. Every season, there are just several moments each season where I'm just like, wow.
No sex, but
He's really good. He really knows what he's doing. I think one of the reasons he makes it look so easy, he never really talks about it on set. He just does it. And I know that he thinks about it. I found out just only about a month ago that he and Kathryn Lee Scott, who plays his mother in the season finale, actually went out to dinner before we shot and discussed it. See, that's the kind of actor he is. He doesn't talk about it. He just does the work, shows up, and is great.
Bernie says, if I don't get a job, I'll be on the street in less than a year. So
we shot this scene, I believe we shot this scene a day or two or more before we shot the rest of Thanksgiving. In fact, I'm sure of it, which Thanksgiving came near the end of the shoot. We shot season 3 from about March 15th to April 10th, I believe it was.
Mature to be a prostitute.
John Stephen Rothenberg could tell you the exact dates, the exact hours, without even looking at a call sheet.
Collateral's a big dick.
And the whore thing doesn't bug you?
I'm fucking out of here.
I like Muscle Stoned. I'm tempted to make him a drug addict in season 4 because he does it very well.
Suddenly I'm starving.
You still have a
This
room
bathroom
full of people
was
out
really
there,
small. It was really tight. It was not the easiest scene to shoot. The camera was literally right up in our faces. So now back at Brad's house, his first attempt at whoredom and his first client. You may recognize his first client. He was in our first season as the guy screaming at Nathan. This is a non-smoking area. He's also in our season 2 finale. You don't see him, but you hear him screaming, "Be quiet out there! No smoking in WeHo." He's also my brother-in-law, David Whiting, and he's we in a family we call him Lucille Ball Whiting because he's very, very funny.
I'm not actually. This isn't going to work for me.
I need to find more for him to do instead of just popping in and insulting our characters and walking away.
Thank you.
Steve Nils' music in the background, which he volunteered and let us use it for free. God love him. Thank you, Steve. The thing with Brad in season 3, Arvin and I both agreed that we really did not want Brad to become the bad hookup of the week. We didn't. It would be so easy to just make him that each week is another disastrous sexual encounter. So we really, Arvin had an idea of him that involved, I think, a Christian fundamentalist and Brad handcuffing him to him or something. But I thought Money Woes, especially since, I think we're finally recovering from 2008, but I think we've all been through some rough, rocky financial times, and there have been a lot of people in Brad's situation. Maybe not exactly in Brad's situation, but who are scrambling to find work right away, and who can't.
I need employment.
So, I've certainly been in that situation at times, so it's something I could relate to as a writer.
I don't see any. Used to be a musician. I've been living off royalties from a hit I had in 1988.
Ah, Rick. Can't tell if you can really get it if you haven't been on a film set. That little table that he's standing in for his craft service, where they have like coffee and milk and cookies and junk food, and people are constantly gathering around to eat. There's like a movie light behind Ross.
Oh yeah, Tanya.
Do you see it off behind his shoulder? We could have been more overt, but all of our lights. In fact, I think that light was setting up a light for a scene we were shooting inside that room, inside that house. So we didn't have enough spare equipment to really dress this as a film set. So no regrets, but lessons. I would have done that differently.
1988.
And Marisa Petroro. Oh my God.
What song?
This is another episode we had to kind of restructure in the editing room because originally this was going to be just a montage, and that's why Brad's background doesn't change, because it was just going to be him sort of like having the same interview with this person, then that person, then that person, then that person, all in one block. But for timing purposes, it didn't work. The other thing, we needed things to insert other scenes later in the episode. So, live and learn. We should have used a green screen and changed the background behind Brad each time we cut back to him. Because if you notice, the background behind them all changes, except for the chair.
Anything?
But yeah, the original idea was to suggest that Brad is having the same experience with every place he goes.
He's a raging nymph.
Fabulous. I want to hear everything.
Oh wait, there's the door. Rewrites, I hope.
Coming up, possibly one of our funniest scenes of the season.
Hey, Rossi. You ready for me?
Tanya.
Marisa.
I'm on the phone with my agent.
Well, I thought we were going to run lines tonight.
Sorry, can't.
Look, I really need to work on this.
Such a serious, driven actress. I was actually down in the hotel bar getting drunk with Sean Landry while they were shooting this. Again, I don't like to be there when actors, are either shooting sexual stuff or really demanding stuff. I don't want them to feel like the producer's micromanaging. Or I don't want the director to feel that either. I do want the directors to feel like their episodes are their choices or their choices. Believe me, if I see something I don't like, I'll speak up. Fortunately, that's just, I can't off the top of my head think of even a single instance. I'm sure it's happened.
Say so. Oh, let's take some tests. Okie dokie?
Emily Tawn. She was at our wedding. Not our Lawrence and my wedding. The wedding episode with Greg Louganis in season 2.
What are you doing?
Our love scenes tomorrow. I thought it'd be nice if we rehearsed tonight.
You know, I'm watching this now, and it strikes me that this is kind of similar to the scene in season 2 when Ross comes into the hotel room to hook up with the guy who he finds out is actually Brad. Ross has his finest moments in hotel rooms. No, he has fun moments everywhere, but this scene.
I like to act on
This episode was directed by Steve Curtis, who was our line producer in season 2, and amazing film professional.
Don't worry.
In season 3, he got up to executive producer as well as line producer, and directed this episode and one other.
No.
I believe the episode where Nathan quit smoking.
Oh, so you want to see all of me? Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's so hot.
It is so not.
Oh, yes.
I do know he ripped her nightie at some point, but it was all an accident.
Okay, yeah. I like it, rough. Yeah. But we got an early call tomorrow. And if we fuck tonight, when I'm done with you, you're gonna look like hell.
See, part of the problem of doing these commentaries is I'm watching it and I get sucked into it.
Yeah, of course I do. But aggressive women turn me off. I want to call the shots.
Wow.
Steve Curtis suggested we add the line, her asking, "You do like girls, don't you?" So once the sex tape comes out and Ross has to confront whether he's going to publicly come out all the way, that it would sort of resonate a bit more. And I think that was a very smart move of his. You recognize that balcony from season 2? Nathan brings all of his men up to that balcony.
Let's go inside.
I sense another flashback coming back. You know, ordinarily, I'm not a fan of when they do that in movies or TV. It's more in TV where people have memories and actually see the person or whatever. But you do what you got to do.
Wait.
Dan Oliverio actually was a script consultant on this and I believe the next episode. And this was actually one of his ideas to subliminally suggest the chubby chaser thing of putting the pillows between them when they're making out. At the time I thought, really? But that has gotten so much, I can't remember how many reviews have pointed that out, how funny it is. And viewers too.
Or even 6 months from now, I would be all over this.
Nathan comes clean.
And you. But
You seeing someone else?
only in here.
This scene was a lot longer. We also
You're too decent a guy to start up
trimmed it
a
down. All the episodes this season, I just overwrote. Again, there was so much story I was trying to squeeze in. And pretty much every time we got a rough cut, there was I would then have the rough cut would come in at 16, 17, 18 minutes. And I'd have to like go through and go, okay, we cut that line, that line, that line, that line, that line. First I would go through and cut all of Nathan's lines since he talks the
I
most.
didn't believe in.
If that didn't do it, then I would go back and watch other scenes and try to figure out what lines we can cut from other scenes. But I always went to Nathan first because he talks too much anyway.
Not handle it well.
In the 80s in New York, there was this model, Maxwell. It was crazy.
We had like 4 different cell phones go off during this scene while we were shooting this. Twice they were Curtis's. Again, you got to watch that blooper reel.
No, what happened?
This was at the end of a very long day.
Ultimately, he's the reason that I left that lifestyle. I quit modeling.
He's very good in this scene, Curtis. This was the actual scene where, like I said, just pretend you're on Law and Order Special Victims and just don't smile till the end of the scene. Just be as solid and
my point is
grounded as you can be, and it worked.
And answers come when you least expect them.
And I guess I can tell you now that even though Nathan appears to have dumped him at the end of season 3, he will be back in season 4. Our audience just love him too much. So
You just quoted Yates in casual conversation. You know you're not allowed to be sexy, nice, and smart.
Nathan, if you need
I do a lot of nose tapping this season. I also do that to Lydia, I think, in the
ever ready for more than that.
later episode.
I think I'm ready for more than that.
Positive?
No, I'm negative. You?
Same here.
Now, I guess we could have had a scene of them rolling between the sheets like we tend to do with all the other characters. I don't know. I wanted to present it as a grown-up relationship all the way and treat it as such and not...
Open your eyes.
Because we could have done this with the two of them, certainly. But I wanted Nathan and Jake to really be like, to feel like a grown-up relationship. And not feel exploited necessarily.
This is awkward, but...
And we see him without his shirt later on, so it's okay.
You don't have to fantasize with me. Let me make your fantasies come true, okay? Okay.
This was actually another suggestion of Dan Oliverio that, that perhaps
Let me give you an example.
a way that Lucas could come out without necessarily coming out was like by explaining a fantasy where, Muscles is wearing a sumo suit. Once again, I'm like, really?
Okay.
But reviews have more than one have pointed out that how funny this scene is, so it totally works.
Sure. I think it would be fun if we rented a pair of Japanese sumo wrestler suits and put them on and wrestled until we were exhausted and all hot and sweaty, and then I fuck you while you're still wearing the sumo suit. Yeah, let's fantasize about that.
Jeffrey. That face. Don't you just want to pinch that face? So, yeah. The Chubby Chaser storyline. That was... I guess I could have been a lot more nervous about it if I had not had Dan Oliverio instructing me. And one thing that came up during the as he was reading the Thanksgiving script was that he pointed out, rightly so, that there's a difference between chubby chasers and chubs and feeders. People who get off on just fattening up someone is different from someone who is just attracted to heavyset people. And so that's something we really went through carefully and tried to make sure we didn't cross that line. This scene's a lot longer. Actually, this episode, there's an uncut, the rough cut version of it is up as Ginger Snaps Uncircumcised on YouTube. This was one of the episodes that came back like at 16 or 17 minutes that we really had to trim. So the rough cut has a lot of footage you haven't seen.
Bad behavior at 25 is...
I think it still works. Trimmed. The biggest regret of the trims we had to make to this episode is that Jeffrey Patrick does phenomenal work in a scene later on, and we'll get to it.
So proud of you.
It was probably one of my toughest moments this season in post-production.
If anyone gets to be cranky, it's me. Start my new job today.
This is one of my favorite scenes of the whole season.
Yeah. So, Muscles. How's the Hulk?
It kind of feels like a return to form,
I know
The guys haven't had a lot of, very few foursomes in season 3.
Sure he faked an orgasm.
So
Fake an orgasm.
Well,
threesome is close.
Sometimes you just gotta wrap it up and move on.
Plus, no, I won't betray his trust.
Of course you will.
He wants to fuck me in a sumo suit.
We actually shot this in our backyard. When the very beginning, when we were plotting, I think even as far back as the pilot, I had suggested, our backyard could work as an outdoor cafe, a very intimate outdoor cafe, but it could work. And by the time season 3 came around, because so much of it was turning out to be so expensive, it suddenly became an option. We used it, and I think it works.
He bench presses 315 pounds.
Oh, I'm sure that comes in handy.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
But yeah, this scene is really, it kind of reminds me of
Jerk Jake yet?
Some of the really early stuff in our show.
Back several times.
Kind of the season 1 energy.
It's nice.
Nice. Nice?
I also wanted to. It was very important to me this season 2 to have two of the old dogs
Isn't it time that
at odds.
Swinging from chandeliers?
You know.
I know you won't believe it. Kind of be hot to actually make eye contact with the guy while you're.
How awkward it can be for friends who are stuck in between two friends who are fighting. You know, it happens to the best friends. I think it's unrealistic, some of these shows who show friends always there for each other with never a disagreement amongst them. It's unrealistic. And what better topic to disagree about than the topic of sex?
I'd take advice from you. You can barely get a fucking job.
Let's keep in mind, Nathan just quit smoking, so cut him some slack. You know, I was a little concerned when I was writing it. And even as I was seeing it come together in the rough cuts, that the audience was going to really begin to hate Nathan. Between how bitchy he is when he quits smoking, and just the bad choices he makes in terms of Jake. But
Who the hell is that?
I don't know, the audience still seemed to support him through all of his bad decisions.
What's wrong with you?
There is a car parked in my space.
This is originally going to be a walk and talk, like The West Wing, but we ran out of time. It required a lot of track, all sorts of stuff.
How's the Christmas shopping going?
All done.
Well, not literally track. They don't use that anymore, but
On a
anyway.
scale from 1 to 10? 3,000.
Braggart. So do you guys have eyes?
It was great also to show, we got to show a lot more Lydia this season.
Is there a law?
Both in the professional aspects of her life and personally as a friend.
Where else would I be? I work here.
Oh, really, do you? Yes, secretary, lounge singer.
And I love how their relationship mirrors Nelson and Nathan's. Arvin's not one for praise, but he did say, when he first started seeing the scripts coming in, he said that he thought giving Nelson an assistant to fight with Lydia was inspired. And I have to say, I'm glad I did it.
Summa cum laude.
Rutanya was great. She was just willing to do anything. And this is her son Jeremy, who is great.
What? Your doctor called?
I felt so guilty yelling at him.
Overdue for your colonoscopy.
And again, this is another one of those scenes that we shot all in one day. Any scene that you see that has green walls, we shot in one day. This is an actual vintage clothing store way in Silver Lake, I think. Graciously let us shoot there as long as we showed their name, which we did at the beginning of the scene.
Excuse me, do you work here?
And this is Peter. I'm not going to insult him by mispronouncing his last name. But that face, he's so photogenic. And a nice guy.
Right this way.
In front of our house.
Ross.
We were going to have a taxi pull off, you know, to indicate it just dropped him off. But, you know, sometimes you can trim those little things from the budget and it just doesn't matter. We'll just say he took an Uber.
It's your grandmother's vase.
I was really surprised by audience response this season to Neil and what a quick turnaround they did. In season 2, I mean, viewers were like, oh, dump him, enough. Not even dump him. I mean, some people wanted Ross to really get revenge. So I was really surprised this season how many viewers really rooted for and hoped and said that they hoped for a reconciliation between Ross and Neil, which was something I never really considered. And as I'm writing season 4, it's like, that is if Ross survives his heart attack. I'm not saying.
I know we're the same two guys. But there was a time
This scene is kind of a perfect example of how I always wanted this storyline, this conflict to feel. I never wanted it to be Neil's an asshole, Ross is a victim. I really wanted it to feel like two people who just grew apart, mostly one was successful, the other one was studying, then the one got out of school, became successful, while the successful one became less successful. And that's, let's face it, that's much more the cause of split ups than, any horrible cheating or manipulation. Anyway, it seems, I guess, that Neil's really trying to win him back, which I guess is one interpretation.
If I ever stopped working out,
I think Neil initiated the lawsuit out of anger and now regrets it.
heavy.
Again, you should watch the longer rough cut. This scene is probably about twice as long, and Jeffrey does such amazing work. This was one of the most painful decisions
About the sumo wrestler thing, so
of the season, was how to cut the scene together. If you watch the rough cut, he does amazing work in the scene, and we really had to chop it up and realize that some of the stuff he says at the end of that Lucas says at the end of the scene, he kind of repeats in a later episode, so we could cut that. Unfortunately, it was during Jeffrey's most intense emotional moment, and we tried so many different ways.
Are you in there? Oh, I'm sorry.
Our first bare ass.
Taking measurements.
It took us a while, didn't it? And I was afraid that YouTube would be up in arms, No one complained. I don't think we got one single complaint. And again, if you watch the rough cut, you see just a little bit more of that ass.
Large.
Again, Dan Oliverio was script consultant, particularly on this scene. And the way I kind of understood it, and I think I kind of had this, at least this level of understanding going into the writing of it, was that for someone in his situation is really like coming out of the closet again. I had a girlfriend in high school. I wasn't really closeted. It's just at the time I just didn't see any future. Where would I go with this gay thing? But so yeah, I did have a coming out process, and it is kind of similar. That a gay guy, a chubby chaser sleeping with someone who isn't chubby is kind of like a gay man sleeping with a woman. Kind of the same thing. It's like, yeah, I can do it, but... And that was the perfect way to end that scene. Even though the scene went on further as we were chopping it, and it's like, that's just a great way to end it. It makes Muscles look like a saint. So, this was a toughie.
Oh my God, that tastes like a lemon douche. Waiter!
So, not a single cigarette?
No. But I swear to God, if I had a lighter, I would roll up this menu and smoke it.
This is the same bar that we used in a later episode where Nathan picks up the bartender, the Christmas Eve episode. This is just the flip side of the bar. We also used this location for the masseur's room. What else did we use it for?
I'm not obsessing.
We used the parking lot for Nathan's car.
Where the fuck is that waiter?
Oh, and we used it for
Jake, don't you ever get mad?
another restaurant, the booth scene with Ross and Dan Carmel.
Jake, if I'm being an asshole, just
Again, another one of those scenes that I thought, audiences are going to just hate Nathan. I hope they get that a lot of this is the nicotine withdrawal talking. And just the frustration of going from this, like, highly dramatic thing with Damien to this calm, peaceful relationship with him. Is giving Nathan the bend somewhat.
Waiter!
This is Petria Jacobs, who, right there, as you can see, is also one of our executive producers for Season 3. She provided some songs for WeHo Horror Story, Do the Pink, and this song was perfect for this ending. Originally we had Whoa Ho, It's Christmas there by, we switched them. We thought this song was much more appropriate to the scene you just saw than having a Christmas song, so we saved the Christmas song by Tiff Randall, Oh Ho, It's Christmas, for I think it's the next episode, or the episode after that. It's weird because, it's funny, you see people ask actors in Star Trek, oh, well, in episode such and such, when this happened to that, and the actor's like, what? I have no, I'm kind of getting to that point now. The show's been on long enough to where I'm kind of like, what? What happened? What? I don't remember that. Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying this is possibly my favorite episode of the series thus far, and that's always constantly subject to change, but I'll tell you why. This episode, for some reason, appeals to me as the writer. I like it because it involves all the main characters equally. We've got Nelson in there, we've got Lydia in there, we've got Rutanya as Barbara again. We introduce Jeffrey Scott Basham as Dan Carmel. So I think the story is structured well, it's tight. I like it as a producer because I think, you know, it looks great, it plays well. I like it as an actor because it contains couple of my favorite scenes to play ever. So yeah, when you know, usually it's like I like this episode as an actor, I like that episode as a producer, but to have it all come together in one episode is pretty cool. This is Jason Castro. He played the trick-or-treater that Lydia threw candy at in WeHo Horror Story.
Jason, see? Now what can Santa get for you?
I want a Monster High Power Ghouls doll. Jason, honey.
And this is Elena. She's an actress I worked with. We did a USC film together that led to the USC film I did with Arvin that led to our involvement in this. She's a great actress. And this line, "Who's Dorothy?" That was an ad lib. Brilliant. She's a great actress.
Oh God, it's over. It's over. I finally get back on the radar, and then this. When Lifetime hears about it, they'll pull the movie.
This scene's a big reason why I think this episode is my favorite episode. Because for so long, the show was just things happening to the characters and them reacting. For once, it seemed like the characters were really driving their own stories, and the characters were interacting with each other as a result, instead of just four separate stories. So, plus I got a couple zingers at
Fuck that, I'm here to promote,
Nelson.
not protect. This is the best possible thing to happen, Ross. The best thing.
Which is the mentality of Hollywood these days. It's like, no, sex tapes are not a bad thing. Any kind of scandal, you promote it. You pretend to be offended, but you still promote it, you know, in roundabout ways.
D-list, you're trending, baby.
It's a different world.
Mr. Adler, Lydia's on the phone, and Barbara's out at lunch, so I thought that I would bring you your, oh my God.
Jeremy Bradigan.
Oh my God.
Bright, not
I just
Brat.
saw you on Ross Stein, right?
Britannia's son. He is such a good actor.
Thank you, Marshall.
Yes, yeah, sure.
He totally got this character. From what little I gave him. I said, yeah, he's just a nerdy East Coast guy who's overwhelmed by all this Hollywood bullshit.
Hey, Connie.
I think that was the note I gave him, and I think he got it.
Listen, here's what. I'm looking at Ross's contract right now, and I don't see a more.
Again, this is another one of the scenes we shot all in that same day in this office. We shot this scene about halfway through, and I spent the morning of this day in anxiety anticipating shooting this scene. I'm very good at doing scenes that are conversational, back and forth. This is basically a monologue, and I rehearsed it and 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 rehearsed it. And got through it. If I knew how many times they would cut angles, and then I realized, oh, well, I could fuck it up here and there, I would have, but no.
Last night, and he is being an absolute bitch. Well, who can blame him? I mean, they took practically everything.
Bruce added this bit.
All except his clothes.
Bruce added the bit about the thief stealing his clothes. I love working with Bruce. He's always bringing new stuff, new lines, and a great energy.
We'll talk to you soon then.
And they actually make a good team, you know, good cop, bad cop, and which is something I hope to exploit in season 4. We're going to see a lot more of their working relationship.
Good had to rub off.
And we'll probably be seeing Nelson in almost every episode in season 4. So how's that?
Fired. Again. Why are you so
Another one of my favorite scenes, which is why this is my favorite episode.
First I thought I'd be spending it with Bobby. Wrong. Then Lucas. Wrong again. 2 guys in less than a year.
Otherwise known as my typical Saturday night.
Not to mention, 2 of my best friends are fighting.
Is it alright if I laugh at my own stuff?
Nathan has a finger. He just has to pull it out of his ass and dial my number.
Now, This was the first day of shooting. We had an earthquake about 4 in the morning, the first day of shooting.
You felt that,
So
right?
all day long shooting this scene, and the scene's at this location. It was all like, hold for earthquake, hold for aftershock. But this is kind of how earthquakes are in California, as you see the cafe restaurant. The patrons are just kind of like, oh, was that? Oh, ha ha ha. That's kind of how it is here. You don't freak out unless they get really strong or really long.
Just say I was out on pain meds? You'd rather people think you're a drug addict.
Again, this is that same bar where we shot
You try, and you'll be the most
the restaurant scene, the other bar scenes. That's the great thing about finding locations like that. You know, the worst thing to do on a tight budget is to do a company move. So if you can find a location where you can knock off 3 or 4 scenes in one location, fabulous.
To my career. Bullshit. I work 80 hours a week and I still get laid. You gotta come out.
He is not British. It's hard to believe this is the kid who was in the bathroom in WeHo Horror Story, isn't it? He's a wonderful actor.
I understand. Look how it ruins that Quinto. And poor Neil Patrick Harris.
And he was very excited, you know, when he said yes to WeHo Horror Story, and then I showed him these scripts. He was so gung-ho and so into it. I love working with the young people and their energy. Young out people who don't have any of that, you know, baggage, who are just there to say, let's do it, let's go as far as we can and show as much as we can and say as much as we can. And he's one of those.
1987.
And fearless in other ways, as you'll see in future episodes this season.
The new prototype of sexy, vital, middle-aged gay man.
Now this, I think, seriously, this is how these situations are handled these days. People come out with sex tapes.
You're not alone.
You know, the person in the tape sort of keeps their mouth shut, but their people kind of promote it in roundabout ways, and they turn it to their advantage.
Hey, Al. Brad, happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Dexter Mayfield, who's
This is my friend, Martin.
playing Martin, Dexter Mayfield, is a friend of
What are you guys up to?
Dan's.
Movies.
I really did not want to put a casting notice out saying, looking for overweight. It just made me very uncomfortable, and he knew Dexter and brought him in, and he was the best.
I don't know you, but
Just the
I
best.
just want to thank you for, well, you know.
Of course.
You two probably want to have a moment, so I'm just going to mosey up the block and give you guys some privacy.
Watch Brad's reaction as he walks away. Keep watching Brad.
He seems nice. Listen, Al.
We could have held on Brad longer.
I'm happy.
You know, this is one of the most fun things about doing this show is, you know, watching the footage and just seeing little bits like that, you know, the little bits of humor that appeal to me personally, just my own sick sense of humor that I don't expect anyone else to laugh at, but that just tickle me pink.
Good to see you, Brad.
I love this scene. This was a scene that as I was writing, it was kind of like, oh, this is the perfunctory scene where they run into each other. But it turned out to be one of my favorite scenes. And again, another reason why this episode's probably my favorite episode. We originally were going to do this as part of the news. The newscaster was going to be like, earthquake strikes, but first, Ross Stein's sex tape. But then we realized we're talking about how different showbiz is, so let's have us watching it on a laptop, which is how showbiz works now. God, show business sure has changed since we were kids.
Speak for yourself. I'm only 42.
Well, call us old-fashioned, but Nathan doesn't like pre-printed.
Again, all on the
His
same
clients
day.
appreciate the fact that I sign his name personally to each and every card.
What the hell is going on?
Okay, we capped this with a line from Mommy Dearest, and Bruce actually had to go up to Rutanya after a few takes and explain to her, to basically give her a line reading, because she didn't realize it was an iconic line from Mommy Dearest. I'll get the cards out on time, okay? This one.
I'll get the cards out on time. Okay?
So yeah, he had to give her the line reading basically, and she was very gracious about it.
Hi,
And
Mom.
didn't realize that it was a big gay line from Mommy
Come home
Dearest.
for Christmas?
Another reason I like this episode, it goes from comedy to this to emotional.
Homesick.
Hey Jake, it's Nathan. I'm really sorry I wasn't reachable today. I had a crisis at work. And I think... And again, it's another scene of, I think, another step Nathan takes. You know, for Nathan, it's always, you know, like... You are so... 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Here's another 2 steps forward. For my assholism, but the truth is, I think I resent you a little. You know, because you're like this grown-up that I should be by now. He's getting there. He's getting there. He takes those 2 steps forward, and then he opens a Christmas card and goes back 3 steps. I had a couple of viewers email me after this episode saying, "What?" I don't know if you remember, but we used this song at the end of the season 2 episode Date Night. Right after Damien tells Nathan he's falling for him out on the balcony. And I thought, you know, I wanted to use that song as the end credits anyway, just to kind of refer back to that. So I went back and listened to the song from the beginning, and when I heard that beginning, I'm like, oh my god! That's like perfect for when Nathan opens the card. You know, that feeling of like, boom! You know, that kind of head rush when something like that happens, when you get a note from someone you're not expecting to hear from. Very subliminal cliffhanger, but I'm very proud of it. Another reason this is probably my favorite episode. But I love them all, you know, they're like my children, so...
How about that second sex tape, yeah? You gonna make another one? Russ, why don't you give us a nice sexy pose right into the camera. There you go. Where are you going?
Give the audience what they want.
Mr. Damien, don't call it.
Arvin was very good at directing that. I assumed they'd all be across the street hiding behind cars and stuff, and the fact that he got it all in one setup with them just like walking into frame, I think was brilliant.
Well, maybe Damien wants to apologize. Maybe he needs closure too.
Or maybe he moved back.
You know, I really like this scene, script-wise. It's an important one.
Overlooking the fact that you
But we had such sound problems in this scene. It took a lot of work. I mean, they really did sound like they were in a car wash for some reason, and it took a lot of work.
That's not what I mean.
Amazing work, because it was a lot worse. A lot worse.
What's with this trip to Ohio?
This is another scene that we trimmed a lot out of, because it just went too long. I overwrote.
I know. I'm working up to it. So when you coming back?
Not sure yet. I mean, I don't know.
Wait.
I've said a few times in a few interviews that Muscles is kind of how I was in my 20s. I was very rigid and kind of like, I only do this, I will not do that. And frequently in my 20s, I would go through spells of like, oh, screw California, I'm going back to Indiana and getting some job in a store, and, you know, to hell with all this showbiz bullshit. So that was something I knew I wanted Muscles to go through. In fact, his trip back to Ohio was one of the things that I'd written way back in Indiana when I wrote seasons 1 and 2.
More responsible with your personal maintenance, and sometimes you're a little.
I probably I had probably written about 1/4 to 1/3 of season 3 already in Indiana. And then by the time it came to shoot it, I probably rewrote half of that. So yeah, about a quarter of it was already written, but then half of that was rewritten to fit all the little circumstances that had changed in the storyline.
How to have a relationship like a grown-up. And come on, it's not like your relationships are exactly drama-free.
You're right.
See how nice Muscles is? A lot of people. I know a lot of gay men would take offense at something like that, and Muscles just owns it.
Gotta go.
Wait. I'm gonna be okay. I promise. How about you?
We just had a review come out that talked about how every tease and every hug felt genuine.
You too.
And that
You're killing me, Muscles.
meant a lot. Because,
Yale drama for this.
the chemistry of a
How much
friendship.
longer? I miss my friends.
Couple weeks tops. Then gear shift focus on normal.
So yes, he purposely went out to get his newspaper in his underwear to get publicity. That's how it works in Hollywood now. It's crazy. You pretend like you have nothing to do with it, that it's all a shock. Why are they taking pictures of me? But many actors play this game. And we finally get Ross. This is... Well, he did hook up off screen with Sydney, I guess, in season 2, but this is the first time we get to see Ross getting it on.
Obviously. But I'm getting divorced. And this media firestorm crap. I can't even believe I used the words media firestorm. Oh, fuck it.
And who wouldn't? I mean, Jeffrey's so sweet.
Ow! Bloody hell, Muscles. You pack enough?
Oh, I forgot my water weights.
Just buy a couple of jugs of whole
Again, this is a situation of, as I said earlier, playing chess when I was writing this script. And it's like, okay, this has to happen to Nathan, so get Muscles to Ohio by this point, which will give us more airtime for Nathan to have his little breakdown.
alone and looking at Christmas Eve. Alright, come on. I'm double parked.
I really like the second half of the season. I really feel...
Ross is still in seclusion.
We're back at that bar again. I really feel like the season really had momentum and increased as it went along.
And now he's not returning mine.
If I'm allowed to say that.
He thinks I'm crazy. I think we're done.
I love that we have a scene with Nathan and Lydia as
Let's go back
friends.
to your place, throw a few things in a bag, and just go.
I mean, they were always friendly at the office, but I really wanted to show them
I cannot believe
as
he
friends.
talked me into driving all the way to this godforsaken
We both, we've talked about this afterwards. We were both really emotional shooting these scenes for some reason. It was just very touching to both of us. I think because it kind of reflects a lot on our own friendship.
Thanks. Nathan, back with your sidecar before you know it.
God, do you know who he reminds me of?
He doesn't look a thing like Damien.
So you see it too.
Which she didn't actually. When she met Aaron, she's like, he doesn't look anything. It's like, it's the energy, it's the height, it's the... Andy Gates again.
My turn. Don't talk about me while I'm gone.
I thought also, it'd be fun to give Lydia an old dog's new trick situation with a much younger boyfriend, so...
Andy.
Nathan.
Lids and I, we go way back.
Here it comes.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
30-something. She's something.
And I do not know her age,
I know.
Amanda's age, so literally it is something. I have no idea.
Gotcha.
She could be 20, she could be, 160. I have no idea.
Musician spirit. She hates kids, loves animals, and is great in the sack. Yeah, but before you knew all that, what was the initial attraction? Great tits.
Which is true, if you're inclined to look for those things. Amanda's got them, so take a peek next time she comes on camera.
Nathan, you staying?
Oh, I cannot be home alone.
Another, not regret, but a lesson. When we were shooting the scene, Amanda actually suggested we change her line to, do you want me to get you an Uber? And I said, no, people won't know what that is. Well, in the 6 months since we shot this to the time it aired, everyone knew what Uber is, so my bad.
Thanks, Nathan.
That cost us our hipness. And here, as JJ the bartender, is Aaron Wimmer. Aaron and I worked together in 2001 in a play called A Few Gay Men, written and directed by Ronnie Larson. I think he was 19, 20, maybe 21, because here he's like 32 in real life now. But, this character didn't need to be a Damien doppelganger, but I wanted to get that similar big, lunky, tall, you know,
I've never tasted a cycle.
not butch, but you know, straight gay guy thing.
And you are far too adorable to drag
And
down.
we're friends on Facebook, and I just saw his picture one day and thought, I wonder if he'd play this part. He lives in San Francisco. And he said, yeah, and I'll come up for it, and did it, and was great. He was a little nervous this first day when we were shooting at the bar. In fact, stopping shooting at one point and saying, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. But I think he did a great job.
Okay. Maybe you should just order one.
Okay.
Great job. And you know, you see why Nathan is seduced by him in the beginning. This scene. We submitted this scene to the gay web festivals for Kurt Bonham for Best Supporting Actor.
Is it that late?
And I think it's kind of criminal
I forgot.
that none of them gave him a nod,
How's Mom?
much less a nod.
That's good. No, don't wake her. Just tell her I called. Listen, I wanted to... No, I wasn't able to get anything mailed this year. It's been a crazy time. I'm sorry.
Something about hearing him without the accent
I'm fine.
as well.
It's just... Well, actually, that's one reason I called. I was wondering if I could...
And again, I think this is a situation many people have been in.
If I could mail your gifts after I get off this tour.
He still has his pride and he just
Yeah.
can't do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's getting ready to release a new album.
For as much as a player and maybe user that he seems to be,
Yeah, it's going great.
the thing that saves Brad, I think, in terms of audience affection and everything, is stuff that Kurt does with him. That he does give him a soul. Now this scene, oh, good lord. The people playing the video games in the background are actually Arvin Batista and Lawrence Whiting, my husband.
Dude, is everything okay? You seem
These scenes, you know, ordinarily, at least in the first 2 seasons, would make me apoplectic. But Aaron was so cool. Because we shot this during the daytime, and they had to build a black tent around the window that Nathan slips out of at the end of the scene. It took a long time to set up. So Aaron and I basically sat, this was the day after we shot the bar scenes, we sat, and the last day of shooting as well, we sat on the porch and just, you know, going through the scene. At first we were just kind of reading it to each other, and then talking, kind of blocking it verbally to each other. And then we just started running the scene, and you know, I'll kiss you here, and then sort of plotting it out. So by the time we got into the set and started doing the scene, there was, although at this point, in one of the takes of this, when I come back into frame, I smashed my face right into his junk. He didn't say a word, and I didn't say anything. It was very embarrassing. But other than that, it was just like any other scene. It was kind of more like kind of a dance routine, really. And he was so game and so unintimidating and so, should I say, openly gay, that
You gotta see underrated celebrity suicide.
it was one of my favorite scenes to shoot, which sounds weird. You're not supposed to say that about sex scenes. But just because we got in there and we shot it and just take, action, take, cut, action, take, and got through it, and it just was a fun scene to shoot. It went really well. I don't know if you can know to tell. Well, you can now because I'm telling you. This is actually Ross's bedroom. This is a bedroom in our house that we could not find a location that would let us have these 2 guys rolling around in a bed. See, it's actually daylight outside, so that's all black blankets back there. So we dressed Ross's bedroom to look a little hipper, a little younger. Here's a big mistake. Nathan would not unlock his door with his keys. We did not have access to the blue BMW that night, so I used my little old black Honda. And we should have just laid in a sound of beep beep, like him unlocking the door. My gaffe. Gaff? Mistake.
Very grown up of you. I appreciate it. But I don't want you to be like me. You're not easy, but you're never boring. have brunch tomorrow morning, if you're free, and we'll talk this all out in person.
Whoops. What you gonna tell him, Nathan? Another thing I was surprised that I really thought viewers were gonna really take me and Nathan to task for this indiscretion. And I actually had messages and emails from viewers saying, oh my god, I hope Nathan doesn't tell him. He doesn't have to tell Jake. Nothing happened. Which I really thought people would react the other way. How could he? How could he do that to Jake? So, you know, they say never underestimate your audience, which is absolutely true. I'm also learning you can never anticipate or predict, which is probably half the fun of it. We finally made it. We're there. The season 3 finale.
This is Jim.
Hey, Jim. My name's Nathaniel. Listen, I'm
Nathaniel
sorry to take up your time, and I know you're probably
Atkinson,
really busy there right now.
as our longtime fans know.
The guy on the other line is Wenzel Jones, an actor I worked with in a play just this past summer, a year ago.
Of course not.
Great actor, good friend,
Thinking of hurting yourself?
hilarious guy, and I'm going to try to get him on camera in season 4.
Well, actually,
I always like to reward the people who give us a little, help us with those little bits by giving them something a little larger later on.
Dude, it is 4 a.m. on Christmas fucking Eve. You're calling with boy problems? Man up.
Yeah, we found at the end of the season Nathan didn't have a shrink to go to, so we thought that would serve, that would become our routine season finales. We always start with Nathan with a new shrink.
Pre or post Clinton?
By your definition.
Sort of, kind of. Not for very long, and it wasn't good at all.
Yeah, a lot of people said Nathan should not have done this, and that this was the bigger mistake.
Popped into my head was that you didn't want to
I don't think I agree with that, but I'm
I'd tell you, we're not in high school.
surprised
Jake,
that
I know.
people
Why
would
do you
say
think I'm
that.
telling you now. Jack, I didn't have to tell you any of this.
He's trying to make 2 more steps forward after having that, setback.
For me.
The other night you asked, do I yell? Do I get mad? Do I lose it?
I think part of Nathan's problem is growing up, or when he first came out of the closet rather late in life and was hanging out with Brad, he was a wild child, and then he became respectable and his business became something, and he grew up, sort of, but he never forgot that past, and Damien kind of ripped off that scab and brought out all of that longing, and Nathan's trying to tap it all back in and be a grown-up again, but it's not easy. This is Kathryn Lee Scott from Dark Shadows.
Oh, right. Eula was telling me about her daughter, Sally. Do you remember Sally Clark? Well, anyway.
These
Sally
scenes
is
are
putting
wonderful.
new carpet down in her kitchen. Sally's kitchen.
This is one of the scenes I wrote in Indiana, which I tweaked a little bit, but basically are still intact.
I'm watching that.
Carl Mobus,
Sorry, Dad. Here.
who I've been trying to get a part that he could play
Is that what
forever,
they're wearing in
finally did.
California, Alfred?
Yep.
I'm from Indiana. I don't want people to think this is my experience. My parents are, first of all, my dad's quite liberal. They would never dream of watching Fox. They probably don't even know what
Carpet.
channel it's on.
New carpet.
There's nothing wrong with this carpet.
You see what I have to put up with?
But there are elements.
Honey, why don't you wear your hearing aid?
I hear what I need to hear.
Don't you really believe that that's mother and son?
Nathan
Wonderful.
Adler working on Christmas? Didn't those 3 ghosts visit
And
you
we
last
cannot end a season without another fantasy bitch fest, slap fight, cat fight, slap fest. So here it is. I'm laughing because I remember a message someone posted after this episode posted saying asking, has Nathan fully transitioned into Blythe Danner, what with the flowing locks and the naughty knit sweater?
Hello, Mr. Adler.
I'm sure he was trying to insult me, but I actually had to respond saying, that's really funny.
Barbara is your date.
So you don't.
And again, this is another scene that we shot
boys or Jake.
all in that one day.
I don't mind being alone.
I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
You'd rather be alone than roll.
You know, when we were rehearsing the slaps before the camera turned on, there was one point where I actually did nip the tip of Bruce's nose, and he took it pretty well. I think he went, "Oh!" or yelped. He didn't scream. He's not Nelson. We had a blast doing this. He's always so game for all of these fight scenes. I just had a blast. And it was his idea to bring back his scream like he had in the wedding. Perfect, perfect. Which helped make the transition back to reality a bit more pronounced and noticeable. Sold it. Oh my God, this scene. This scene with Nathan and Brad. This was the last day of shooting. It was my last scene with Brad, with Kurt.
Looks like somebody had a green Christmas.
I know Kurt had been going through some stuff. I'll let you wonder whether it was professional or romantic or personal, but he had been going through some personal drama.
I'm sorry.
So going into that, I already knew
You know how hard that is.
there was that. And look at his face. I mean, you can't act opposite someone like that
I'm a fuck up, Nathan.
without it getting in. But there was also, for me, there was this feeling like, you know, oh my God, he was here. He was one of the first people on board with this project. Even before I cast him, he was all gung-ho.
Walks with a cane.
It's someone I'd worked with before and carved in stone. We had a pretty long professional history. And had, both with this show and Carved in Stone, had come to my rescue more than once. So there was a lot of emotion going on this day.
Oh, not a chance.
And we started to run the scene.
Of course, he only weighs 12 pounds.
The camera, I don't think we even were, it wasn't even a rehearsal we were shooting.
Tuesday, January 4th.
And I came to the line about, I'm your agent, but I'm also your friend.
They're looking for a host for something called
Boom!
Next Great One-Hit Wonder.
I took everything I had not to start crying. Because, I mean, look at him, and we're doing this scene, and so we get through the rehearsal, and Arvin's like, well, what was that about? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just shoot the scene. Shoot the scene. Shoot the scene. And we did. And you know, he intercut it with takes from other setups and angles and stuff. But you can almost, I think you can almost see that moment. For some reason, Lawrence laughs every single time he's seen that moment. He must have seen it 50 times now, and it gets a laugh from him every time.
You don't have to.
Yeah, this moment. This was very hard to get through.
That's what we do.
Both the rehearsal and then every time we shot it, it was like...
I'm also your friend, Brad. We've been through way too much. Let's not ever fuck it up again, okay? Actually, no, there is one thing you can do.
That took a lot.
Promise me.
See, the thing is, you know, I guess one thing you learn as an old veteran actor is that people don't just cry at a drop of the hat. When they're feeling like they're going to cry, they hold it in. So that was the challenge. You know, I could have been showy and broke down or whatever. But this scene really wasn't about me. It was about Brad. And Nathan would not have cried in front of him anyway. So there you go.
That never grows old.
This is another one of my favorite scenes of the entire series.
How long are you going to go on pretending that nothing's
We were so lucky to get Kathryn Lee Scott, wonderful actress. It's funny, I was stashed in the pantry when they were shooting these scenes, listening, but I couldn't see it. And I remember listening to it and thinking, boy, sounds so low key. I didn't say anything. I just felt like, I don't know, is it going to be interesting? And then to watch the footage and see like, oh my God, it's low key. It sounds low key because it's fabulously realistic and not actory, but for real.
And it's impossible to meet a decent guy.
Love this scene.
Whenever I think I have, he either turns out to be a...
And she is such a trooper. When they wrapped this scene, you know, I was still stuck in the pantry listening, eavesdropping. And Jeffrey and Kathryn were walking off set, and I heard her say to Jeffrey, "Oh, I wish we could have got another take of that last shot. I felt like I felt a little raspy."
Maybe you're lucky.
So I, kind of came out of my pantry and trying to act ignorant. Said, "Oh, how'd it go?" And she said, "Well, the last take was." And I said, "Do you want about it? It's no problem. We can stop, and I can go in there and say we need one more take, and they'll do it. So if you want one, just tell me, and we'll do it. And it's absolutely no problem." She thought about it for a minute and said,
And he worked like a
"No, you guys can move on," which was very nice. She's another one who just showed up. The morning she showed up, carrying her own, would not let anyone carry her wardrobe up the 3 flights of stairs. Was very not showy, not demanding, not diva.
How about if you make yourself?
And if she had been, I would have put up with it anyway, because she's wonderful.
Instead of trying to find someone to make happy or to make you happy. Because sooner or later, you're going to have to depend upon yourself to make yourself happy anyway.
Again, steps. I want these characters to,
We're in the kitchen, Ralph.
hopefully by the end of season 4, they won't be completely grown up. Their problems won't all magically solve. But I would like to see them, eventually get
But that's only if you really want to.
a little up that maturity ladder.
It takes you to decide.
Thank God you're my mom.
My mom actually said this to
If
me
I could
once.
have had 10 more like you, I would have. Unfortunately, I had one more, and it turned out to be your sister.
She did not say the bit about the sister. My sister's older than I am. But she actually said if she could have had 10 more kids just like me, she would have. I bawled for an hour afterwards.
6 months ago.
Wow, we have David Pevsner without clothes on again. I'm so sorry.
Writing children's books. Will life ever be boring again?
This is one of the most romantic looking scenes I think we've ever shot.
Speaking professionally. Oh, speaking of that, I talked to Nathan today. I'm actually getting offers.
And who was the genius who foretold that?
Sex tape and a happy ending for all. It happens. Doesn't mean I'm going to go out and make one, but maybe 20 years ago.
Neil. Oh. I'll go.
Neil actually knocked. He's learning. Oh, I think he says that, doesn't he?
Merry Christmas, babe.
Oh, I guess not. Maybe it was scripted and we cut it.
Look and find out.
You're dropping the case.
Mm-hmm.
You were right. I was hurt and I was being vindictive and I shouldn't be. Not to someone I love. And I do.
Grown-up steps.
I have missed you so much. Now I realize what you were feeling all those years.
I have to say, and with all due respect to Doug Spearman, who is a wonderful actor, I couldn't see the scene happening between his Neil and Ross.
Pretty hot. And it made me realize that I have become so boring.
And I really...
Excitement. And I would do anything.
I buy that they're a couple, or were.
What do you say, babe?
And I guess now I do see why people... I do have a lot of viewers saying, are they getting back together? Oh, I hope so. You're getting them back together, right? Which I never thought would be the demand.
Neil Kelly, my...
Sorry, I was stunned by nudity. Near nudity.
Neil Dan Carmel, my...
Q, the fabulous song sung by Amanda Gary, written by her brother. And it seemed perfect. Those are actually pictures of Jeffrey in various stages of his life. The original cliffhanger was actually going to be Nathan was going to look at Damien, he was going to look at Jay, he was going to call one of them, whom you did not see which, and ask for a second chance. Arvin brought out, and quite correctly, that our hardcore fans who read about backstage goings-ons know that Damien will never come back. It's not a cliffhanger for them. Don't be a cop-out and give us a real cliffhanger. So I went back, rewrote it so Nathan would end in a very smart grown-up place. And that the cliffhanger would be Ross. And I remember in WeHo Horror Story, Ross saying, "Do you know how many men in my family have died from heart attacks?" Well, So I wrote it, sent it to Arvin, and again, Arvin is not a man of effusive compliments, but he was very, very happy with it. And watching it now, I am very, 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 very happy with the scene, with the cliffhanger, with the finale episode, with pretty much every episode. You know, I said that the first episode was the weakest, but even, hey, it's still pretty good. And wow, I can't believe that was an hour and a half. That kind of flew by. That was season 3 of Old Dogs and New Tricks, the series. And as I said, I'm writing season 4 now. It looks like we're going to be shooting it in 2016 and airing it shortly later in 2016. So we'll probably do another, maybe not a full-out mini-movie special to bridge the gap, but we are talking about doing sort of like a recap thing, similar to what Soap used to do on their summer vacations. I'll let you know as soon as I know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. This was fun. Oh my God, we're going to do it again one last time.